Okay, hi. What we're going to try to do today is we're going to try to use Blender 3D with Blender GIS plugin and Roblox to try to bring USF Patel's College into Roblox. And we're going to run into a lot of roadblocks along the way. There's going to be a lot of problems. So this is just an introduction to the basic concept, and then we're going to have to work together to figure out how to make it work better. But the basic concept so far is that you start out by going into Roblox Studio, which you should have downloaded to your computer when you get to Roblox, and just ignore that. We can start a new game, and we will start with the base plate. That's the most simple version there, and we're going to bring into here a couple of things. We're going to bring in, I need to make sure that I'm viewing the object browser. No, it's not what I want to look at. Script performance plugin test models. Use Control I, that brings in the advanced object. Let me make sure that I'm looking at all the possible the objects. Models, no, not that. Explorer, properties, Game Explorer, object browser, output command. So we're going to click on Toolbox to bring up the toolbox of the different tools we can put in. Those are some of the objects. And we'll put in a soldier. So we have a character that we can use as a reference, and I'm going to scroll through here to rotate, and I will rotate the soldier just so we can see his face. If you want to zoom in on him, hit F, the F key. Alright, there he is. Nice little soldier. I'm going to bring in a house. So I'm going to type in here into the toolbox, search for house, and I'm going to pick a, let's just go for this modern house here, bring that in. Alright, and I'm going to put in a car. So type in car, and I will bring in a typical car. Alright, now of course these can be played, and let me make sure that they're on the ground here. That car is right there where the red part goes. That's where the wheels are touching the ground. There. Soldier seems to be on the ground. Everybody seems to actually be on the ground okay. Once you've done that, you can play this just to make sure that, boom, your walking character is the same size as everything else. There's a lot of fun things you can do here with what's already in Roblox. I mean, you can go in the house, and you can go up the stairs, and you can go and sit in the chair and lie in bed, and yeah, great stuff here. So I sit in the chair there and work with your computer. All right, so yay for Roblox, great program. Get out of the house here. I think you can even watch TV here. Not sure. No, maybe not with this model. Anyway, out the door, come around, past the soldier, get into the car, and then usually you can start the engine and you can drive around the world. So yeah, Roblox is fun. Stop the engine, jump out. Okay, so what we're going to do, however, stop the game here, is we're going to export these into Blender so we have a size reference when we bring things into Roblox. So I've selected these three objects, and I'm going to Advanced, and I'm going to export as OBJ. And I will call this Modern House Car, let me do car and soldier for Blender reference, and I will put those in there. And now I can open up Blender This is Blender 2.8. It's got a lot of problems and bugs, and it's very unfamiliar to me, so there's going to be a lot of stuff we can't do with it. But we'll use it for this particular purpose. When we're in Blender, the first thing you have to do is make sure that you install, which is in Preferences, install Blender GIS. And the way you install it, if you don't have it, is that you go to your browser and type in Blender GIS 2.8x, because this is the new 2.8 version. Otherwise, you need to get the earlier version. And people have been having some problems with it, but it's in GitHub, and generally, the first thing that comes up, cannot install. Click on that, but then you'll find it under Domsliz Blender GIS. He's the guy who put it up. So you click on Blender GIS there, and then you go to download, and you download the zip file, and you'll get the zip file, and then you put that zip file into a folder, and then when you are in Blender in Blender Preferences, then you tell it to install from, and you find the folder where you put it. For example, Blender GIH files is where I have it. Under Blender add-ons for GIS project, I have the Blender GIS master. You click on it and you say install add-in from file, and then you check it to make sure it's on. And what you'll see, you then have to save your preferences. What you'll see when you open Blender from now on is that up here in the top left, you'll have View, Select, Add Object, and now GIS. So that will give you the opportunity to bring in maps. So let's do that. To do that, go hit your 7 key and number for top orthographic. If it says top perspective, you have to hit the 5 key to make it orthographic. Go to GIS, go to Preferences if you're doing it the first time, and make sure that you have a cache area. And that cache area, base maps cache folder, you'll have to click on that and then find a place to put it. I put it in Blender GIS cache, a folder that I made. All right, that's where the base maps will go. You also need that for, I guess we're fine. That's the add-on. There's your projection type, auto detect. There's your cache folder for your base maps. And then building type is what I'm using for import export. Oh, maybe I should click merge duplicate vertices. All right, so that's for import export. You can also add other things, but it's not working for me, so don't worry about that. All right, now save your preferences, and now you go to GIS and you go to Web Geodata Base Map. Google is what I'm picking, satellite instead of map, and I'm going, I get a map when I click on that. I hit G for go to, and I put in USF Tampa, and I do the zoom level at about 19. I hit OK. There's USF Tampa. Use the scroll wheel to move about, and the left mouse, and here's Patel. I want Patel, and I want a couple of other buildings. That's all I really want. Once I've found Patel and I have the extent that I want, which is about that, I'm going to hit E for that extent, and I have now a plane that has it on it. And then I'm going to get some GIS digital elevation model information, which is the SRTM, which is for the satellite something topographic map. I'm not sure what the R is. But you click on that, and it'll bring in some height information. However, it's a bit too bumpy. You couldn't possibly really drive around on this. There's no big hills like that on our campus. So that elevation is too much. So go to the modifier tool over here. You'll see the modifier is a DEM modifier. Bring the strength down. I like to bring it down to about 0.2. Still has some contour. Maybe try 0.3 if you want to have a little bit more contour in there. This is Florida, it's pretty flat. For other regions, it would be different. So we've got that information, and now pay attention, the number of triangles is now 8,204, and that's going to be critical later on. So we have this, this base map, and then go to GIS and go to Web Geodata, and now get OpenStreetMap or OSM, and Ways do building. Check elevation from object, and the elevation object is that satellite image, and separate the objects and say OK. And it's going to pull in a whole bunch of USF buildings. Now, that just increased our triangles to 13,296, which is way too many. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to hit B for bounding box selection, take all these buildings and delete them because I don't need them. That brought my triangles down to 10,869. Our target is 10,000 because that's what Roblox will accept. So I'm going to get rid of as many buildings with as many triangles as I feel I don't need to still have a viable model. And then you can bring in other models, but per model import you can only have 10,000. So getting rid of all this, oops, not that, hit bounding box. Getting rid of that. We're down to 9,200 and something. We get the library in there, so there's our buildings. That's kind of cool. That can basically work as an export, but I do want to name these differently. That's Patel, so if I scroll down, well, it's already got a name on it. All right, so that one's there, and it's got the Lifsey House and Cooper Hall. So some of these are there. Some of these are just given numbers because they never really named them, but some of them are here, like the Alumni Center over there. All right, and they're in there. Now here's the thing. We want to make this the right size for getting it into Roblox, so the character, when he walks around, is the right size relative to the buildings, and they're the right space. So to do that, we need to import the, oh, I also want to give some depth to this field here. So I'm going to go into hit Tab, go into Edit, select all, hit Extrude, and bring it down just a bit. Did that really increase? I don't know if that's going to increase my triangles by much. Oh gosh, it really did. It brought it up to 50,000. So we're not going to be doing that. Let's see what happens there. If I don't increase it and I go back to Object, I'm still at 9,000. Okay, so I can't really give this much depth. Oh, maybe, because it's so big, maybe if I go into Tab, I get into Edit, select this whole landscape, and did I apply? I haven't applied the DEMs yet. That's part of the problem. So I'm going to apply the DEM. Can't do it in edit mode. So let me go back out. Still got 9,000. I apply this DEM and apply this DEM. Still at 9,000. But now when I go to edit this with these triangles, I can select it and hit Extrude in X. Extrude in X, sorry. Hit Extrude in Z. If I do that, let's see what that did to my triangles. Nah, it brought us up to 18,000. Still no good. So, nope, not going to do it. So 9,000. All right, so we can't put much depth in this. We'll have to do that as a separate procedure at another time. Anyway, we're under 10,000. I want to show the landscape idea, so I'm going to import those characters that we brought in, that we exported from Roblox, and they are, the most recent one was Building Car and Soldier. It was Modern House Car and Soldier for Blender reference. There it is. And it has a materials file right above it. And if they're in the same folder, it should bring in the materials as well as just the object. It creates a material and creates an object. So I'm going to import the object. And they're in there somewhere, but usually hidden way under. Oh my. It looks like it brought in the base plate as well. That's unfortunate because that brought our triangles to 346,000. But anyway, we're only using it for a reference. So I'm going to bring this down like this. And I think you can see when we put the car over the parking lot that the car is multiples times bigger than the cars in the parking lot. And that's not good. So we've got to make everything scale up to the size of the car if we're going to use it in Roblox. So what we'll do here is we will take that whole object and we will hide it for a second by clicking on this eye icon. Now it's gone. We will select everything else that's in this world. We're going to hide the camera, we're going to hide the cube, we're going to hide the light. And we're still at 9,000 because if I turn on the we get 346,000 triangles. So I'm turning that off. I'm selecting everything, and now I'm going to scale everything up. But I can't do it all at once. I wish I could just take this and hit 4 and 4 and 4, but actually what it's doing is it's scaling, you'll notice, the modern house. So what I have to do is go to this object, the Export Google Satellite, and scale it up. 4, 4, 4. I found that that's a reasonable scale up. And then I got to go to all my different houses and scale them up. Patel Center, for example, 4, 4, 4. Now the Patel is scaled up, and actually the Patel is back where it belongs, whereas all the other houses are wrong because they're not scaled up. So you see, I move the Patel, just the Patel. There it is, right on top of where it's supposed to be. For all the others, what I can do, if I can find them all, when I go back to my top view, and I can take Patel out of this whole thing by unlinking it, and then Patel should show up somewhere else. Where is it? Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Now that it's unlinked, it disappeared. So I'm going to hit return on that. What I need to do is deparent this, actually. So one thing I can do is I can right-click on it and say parent and go cleave parent and keep transform, and now it should be its own object. Can I move it up the hierarchy? Oh, it didn't have a parent. It's actually grouped. I'll hide it. And then I will select everybody else. They're all underneath. That's the problem. There we go. So let's also hide the map. And now we can select all these guys, but we can join them as one happy family by hitting Control J. Now they're one object. Since they're one object now, and the Patel is its own object, be able to find the Patel. There's the Patel down there. The Patel's 4 times the size of these guys. These guys as one object can all be sized at once. So I select them, I go to scale, I go 4, 4, 4 and Z, and now they're all laid out in the landscape quite nicely. When I turn on the map, you can see they all sit right on the map the way they're supposed to. And then when we look at the modern house, like toggling that on, we've got to move that back up. And GZ lift it up. We should see that the car, here's the car. If we move it down, not rendered, don't want rendered, want solid. When I hit G and Z and move the car down and move this whole thing over, it's a little awkward. I should turn on there's tools that will help you to, or used to be tools, easily visible so that you could see what you were moving. But in the new version, I'm not sure where they are. Maybe in modeling. In layout. Oh, I'll just keep using G and Z until I've learned this new version of the program. But you can sort of see now that the car is fitting on top of the other cars in a way that GY, so it's fitting over the cars, showing that a 4-time enlargement, scaling up 4 times actually is pretty good. And when you actually bring the house closer to the Patel building, then we see that a 2-story house sits nicely with regards to Patel in terms of its height information, because we have many more stories than 2, and the size of the person going in the building seems to be okay now. So that means that we can now export our houses to Roblox, but of course with 346,000 polygons we're not getting anywhere. So we turn off the import that we did from Roblox, and now all of this can go. So we can select all of these, and we can go File, Export, Wavefront Object, find the place to put it, export the object. This will be called Patel and USF Landscape. Export the object. Let it do its thing. And there we go. Now when we go back to Roblox Studio, we can import the object, and the way we do that is by right-clicking on the screen here, say Insert Object, and say Mesh Part. That mesh part should show up somewhere. Seems like it didn't. Let me try that again. Insert Mesh Part. There it is. Okay, so we have a mesh part somewhere in this world, and we go down to this folder down here in the Properties, click on that, and we bring in Patel College and USF Landscape. It's a big file, so let's hope it doesn't crash my system. It says too many triangles. Oh, it's got the 346,000. Okay, can't do that. Maybe I was using the wrong one. I think we did something else. We had Patel and USF Landscape. That is the one, isn't it? 41 megabytes. Let me look at this. Maybe we didn't export it with... we had everything instead of selection only. So you've got to have, it's crucial that you have selection only. Now it should work. That was much quicker. Now, because I overwrote this, yes, this should work. Right, it's very large. Do I really want to resize the mesh? No, I don't. I want it to be as big as it is. Do I want the location data? Not right now. I want it to come in right where that mesh part is. And there we have it. So we have this landscape, and when we zoom in, we don't have the texture information yet. However, there is the possibility, I'm not sure this is going to work yet. I'm going to pause for a second. There is a way of bringing in an image. So hold on. Actually, before I try to put the image in, I'm going to take this big mesh that we brought in. And let me see, by the way, where is Patel College? Patel's on the other side of campus. This is a weird map here. I think that Patel is going to be... to look by the shape of the building, but let me go back to Blender for a second. Patel is that one there, and then there's the big row of houses over there. So that's that row of houses over there. So actually Patel, that's the library there. Patel is here. Okay, there's Patel. And then our character is over here, but I'm going to move all these guys. Well, that's the house. Where's our character? Our soldier is way over here, so we'll drag him, bring him up a little bit. these on the landscape, and bring our car, our Chevrolet Tahoe, bring that up and move it in. There's the car. All right. And we're going to anchor. We have to anchor this mesh, because if we don't anchor this mesh part, which I should click on and name as USF Patel Landscape, if I don't anchor it, then it's going to fall through the world. So hit anchor, turn that on right there. Now we can play it, although there's no textures in here. Boom, the character falls down, and now we know where the Patel building is. It's way down there, so I'm going to have him run. He can meet another student who's in our ROTC program. He can go to the car, and the car didn't really fall. There's something wrong with the collisions here, but if you want to drive, or will it actually drive? Yeah, it's having problems getting over the landscape here, but you can drive to the library a little bit quicker than walking. We know the USF campus is really large, but now it's going up a weird slope. So there's some collision problems that we've got to work out. We do have a landscape here. And then, bang, he hits the wall and he says, okay, I'm done with that. I'm going to get out of the car and I'm going to go to class. But of course there's no detail in here. This is just for reference. So we don't have any words. But he is floating, so there are some problems here. At any rate, that is how you'd get the basic size of the landscape with the distance of the buildings all correct. Next thing we have to work on is ways that we can get the textures in, because when I put in a paint function for the landscape and try to put some grass in, of course it's not grass because this is a mesh part. It's not an actual landscape. And if I can paint on this, but it's going to be really, really, really funky. I can start painting on top of this mesh to get grass, a grassy knoll going. But as you can see, it's like really messed up. So I'm going to have to subtract that. And we're going to have to work on changing that terrain. So that's a bit of a mess. Anyway, we'll get back with you. All right, so I'm going to try here with, in my model, I mean, there's things I can do immediately, like change the color of this. But that is not what we really want to do. We can't figure out where to put the roads and how to apply textures and terrains using that. I do have a plugin that I got, if you look at my managed plugins, called Local File Importer. Also got Shift to Sprint, by the way, which is really cool because that makes me able to sprint and run really fast. But this Local File Importer lets you load images and use them to try things out. So you can see where it is by clicking off on it and clicking on its local file importer in there. And that local file importer, when I turn it on down here, I pick the area that I want to put the image on, which is the local USF Patel landscape. And then the image I pick for the background can be black or white or none. Search images, use checker, search images, I'm going to import an image, and the image that I'm going to import has got to be the one from Blender. So this particular image, the export Google sat map, is what I want to find. It's not always easy in Blender to be able to know where to find that. So what you sometimes can do is go to UV editing, and UV editing, take your top view, there's that mesh, and the image that we're using is up here under export Google sat map. That's the one. And then when you have that up there, then you can go to image and go save as, and now it'll give a TIFF file. So this is the export Google. So I'm going to call this USF Patel landscape, and I want to save it again in my Roblox folder where everything should be in there because it's easier for me to use it. I don't know why it's not letting me. There we go, Roblox. And save that image as a TIFF, but Roblox doesn't take TIFFs. So then you've got to have a TIFF to PNG converter somewhere. And there are online TIFF to PNG converters. There's one that I used the other day, and you start the conversion by choosing files from your device, and I put it in the Roblox folder, and I called it USF Patel landscape, and I open that, and then I'm not changing the size at all. It's colored. I start the conversion, and it should download it, and then it's there as a ping. And then I download it. Like I said, already downloaded. Show in folder. Where is it in folder? Here it is. So I can cut that, go to my Roblox folder, paste it in the Roblox folder, and there it is there. And then go back into Roblox and look in the folder, and it should be there under Patel. Maybe I need to, oh, that's documents. Roblox, yes. Should be in there now. SUS Patel landscape, there it is. Say open, and then drop it. Should let me. Maybe I can put it on here. All right. Background none. Background black. Open temporary, remove from plugin. Sometimes it only shows up when you're in the top view, or maybe it won't show up at all. Maybe it's just a fail. Let's see. Open in its own window. Background white, nothing there. So the image is definitely there, but not loading. All right, here's what's bizarre about it. If I select the house, then the image appears on the house. Depending on, if I select the wall and I put it on the wall, then the image appears on the wall. Select this wall and bring it there, and the image appears on that wall. So clearly it's having trouble mapping onto this whole big structure for some reason. Oh, well, it does. No, it doesn't do anything. Or maybe that is part of it. That's why everything turned gray there. All right, we're not going to be able to get anywhere by mapping that image onto this particular texture with that plane. It just ain't happening. So we'll have to still then figure out a different way to get the texture map into the game. So all we've been able to achieve so far is we've got the buildings proper, but we can't really begin to texture, and that's something we need to figure out. That plugin is not doing the job. So what we do now is, having failed to use this plugin to get the image onto the whole landscape, we might try using an image GUI, or GUI, graphical user interface, and go up to here and put in, funny, it doesn't show up. All right, that's strange. Let's go back up here. These parts here are relevant to the USF Patel Library and Landscape. And there's lots of parts to it. This is, what are all these things? Hit the F key to see, oh, there's plenty of walls and things, parts that are relevant to those that all seem to be included in. So it gets a little bit kludgy here, but finding the image GUI, insert object, and there's no image. That's weird. Insert object. Sometimes you can find them under advanced objects. So here's image label. And I think that that is what the tutorial says that we need to put in. Yes, image label. So if you can't find it, as I couldn't by right-clicking, you have to go to advanced and then put it in, and it should come up. Where is the image label? Once again, you'd have to, whoops, I'm going to call this image for landscape, and hit F to find it. Oh, it didn't. Image for landscape. Click on it, and when you hit F, it should come up, but it hasn't. So where is it? Well, so we will go to Insert Object and then go to Screen GUI. And that is the Screen GUI. Well, it's not the Screen GUI, is it? Screen GUI is here. I don't want it there. I want it to be part of the workspace. I want it to be its own thing. So there it is. Okay, Screen GUI. I'm going to bring it up above. Oh, I somehow got it into the soldiers. So you really got to be careful where you place these things. It's alphabetical now. Okay, so the soldier's there. No, it's not alphabetical. Uncanny. Okay. But it's the Screen GUI. And that Screen GUI, that Screen GUI, now we're going to insert the object called image label. It shows up here as an image label. Now you'll note that before you can upload any images, you have to publish this to Roblox. So I'm going to publish this to Roblox. And I'm going to choose an existing place to overwrite or create a new place. I'll create a new place. And I will call this new place USF Patel College, and make it public and create the place. It will upload, and then I'm not advertising my game. So now the image label is supposed to, so I can get rid of this image for landscape because that's no longer relevant. The image label, and down here it says what image do you use. You hit add image, choose file, and then USF Patel landscape comes in, and then I hit create. And it's supposed to create an asset name, and I'm not using local file importer anymore. I'm not using localization tools. I'm still looking for it. It says it's loading. Now what happens often in this particular game is that they will have moderators looking at the image to make sure they don't contain any nudity or anything objectionable like Nazi swastikas or red armbands or anything, because Roblox is for kids. And so it may take some time for the object to load and be vetted. But we can see if this will actually work, possibly by using another image that that is not that new to them, like map in Blender. Mercy College. Well, the Mercy College ping color map I uploaded a while back, and I think that was vetted. Let's see if it cross vets. But here's Patel landscape. It actually says that it was loaded there. So now you'd think it would show up on the screen GUI, but I don't really know yet where the screen GUI is. So it's very difficult right now for me to figure this out. Maybe you guys can help me. I think if you click on UI over there, then you can create some kind of user interface, a screen UI that's under Starter GUI, the Starter GUI. So when I click on UI and then I go Screen UI, then it lets me put in a frame, which I can make a certain size, and then I can put in an image, which I can make a certain size, and then in image I can come up, go down to the image that I have of Patel, and then I have Patel there for reference, but it's not at all obvious to me how to get this onto the actual landscape. If I put it under the landscape, it just completely disappears, of course, even though it has the frame and the label. So we've still got to figure out then how to make this Starter GUI, Screen GUI, work on the landscape. And that just makes it disappear. If I bring it back under Starter GUI, then there it is, and I can do some editing of the Starter GUI. Take the frame and move the frame. I can take the image label and move the image label. But we've got to try to find a way to map that onto the actual. So I'm going to delete that right now. We got to make that map onto something down here, some kind of object, and that's not evident how that would be done with a user interface. Because even if I put it in, it always starts in Starter GUI, as you can see there. It doesn't go anywhere else. And to get an image label onto an object, if I take the Patel landscape and I insert an object, and that object is not evident, there's no image here that can be put on. I can put a screen GUI into here, and then I can add, when I go to insert object from here, now image label comes up, but when I go to add the actual image, nothing happens here, and I certainly don't need that there. So the image isn't working, and once we figure that out, then we'll be able to paint the landscape appropriately using the terrain editor. But of course, one of the problems with the terrain editor is you have to find a shape and then a strength and a size, and the shape is so big that if I came in here and I wanted to start putting down grass, would it stick on the landscape? No, instead it floats in midair. You'd have to really get down. So there's difficulties in creating that. We'd have to create a terrain and then paint the terrain. So we probably need to make flat terrain. A lot of different stuff that we're going to have to work out before we can use this effectively, but at least we know now that we can bring in the appropriate sized landscape, and then we have to figure out why this character is walking around in thin air. As he goes around the campus. But the buildings are in the right size and the right relationship to one another. And that's something. So that's all for now, and we will continue to work on this anon. Thanks.